What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dunk on AP podcast. This is sort of a mini edition, and it is recapping the AP adventure game on the Industrial Age. So the first big takeaway that I wanted you guys to have from that game is that different countries industrialized at different rates. So, of course, you saw Britain and France. They had a massive leg up. Also, the United States had a big leg up, particularly in the north, where factories were a lot more common. Because the soil isn't quite as good up there, it's more conducive to factories. You can get the cotton from the south, bring them up to the factories in the north. So, the United States, France, and Britain industrialized a lot faster, while you had places like Qing, China, and Japan that really went a lot slower, and then and even actively shunned the Industrial Revolution. Whereas, you had places like the Holy Roman Empire, which is about to become Germany. It's about to unite and industrialize. But in 1805, when the game takes place, the Holy Roman Empire, they can't agree on anything. It's a collection of a bunch of different little nations, a bunch of different little kingdoms. So the Industrial Revolution happened at different rates for different countries. And the next big thing that I want you to know is that it happened at different rates for a number of different reasons. Remember, Britain industrialized fast because it allowed its people to have patents that didn't last forever. So people could actually improve on technology without being worried about getting sued or something like that. But they also had a ton of natural resources. They had a bunch of colonies, which that's a massive factor in the game, is that in order to fuel these industrial economies, you had to have colonies. So the next thing that as you think about the reasons why it happened, remember, culturally, in China and Japan, they really didn't necessarily want this industrialization. Particularly in the case of Japan, you've got a society that is almost completely closed off because of their Sakaku policies. Really starting in like 1587, they don't want a lot of Western influence, and industrialization is not a big part of that. So by 1805, they're not going to be industrializing, and certainly not going to be industrializing effectively. So in 1868, after Commodore Matthew Perry sails into the shore, the American Commodore in 1853, and says, "Hey, you guys need to open up. Come on." And there's going to be a revolt against the Tokugawa shogunate. They're going to get overthrown. And in 1868, you get the Meiji Restoration, in which the emperor is really restored to power, and you get sort of the return to those early, maybe samurai-based ideas. And Japan's going to industrialize very, very fast. They don't want to fall behind and get snapped up by imperial sharks the way that China will in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So the first two is people industrialize at different rates. That's the first point. And the second is they industrialize at different rates for a number of reasons. And then the third big point is that this is going to lead to the unifying of states, but it's also going to lead to colonies being exploited at a greater rate. So in unifying places like the Holy Roman Empire, this is a massive thing. You look, this needs to become one thing, and Germany is going to unify. It's going to be pressure than Germany. So then colonies, though, they are going to get exploited because of the natural resources needed to fuel the Industrial Revolution. Notably, in the case of India, the Mughal Empire is a shell of what it once was because of infighting and unwinnable wars that it's been waging. And one of the things that happens is that you get the British East India Company continually taking more and more ground in India, and eventually that's going to lead to the Sepoy Revolt, the Sepoy Rebellion against this. Remember, the Sepoys were the sort of elite British. They were Indian, but they sort of fought for the sake of the British East India Company. They revolt against the British East India Company in the mid-1800s, 1857. And what's going to happen is that the British East India Company says, you know what, we're taking over now. And Britain is going to take much more direct control of India, and they're going to use India as a major source of stuff for the Industrial Revolution. So that's the big ideas. And the last one is that women are going to start to get a foothold in society outside of just doing traditional women's roles in the home. Early women factory work, the late 1700s, early 1800s, you're going to start to see women stepping into factory roles because they're cheaper. They're cheaper labor. Also, children are going to start to occupy those factory roles, and that's going to lead to people saying, hey, should we be doing that? And you're going to start to get maybe some labor restriction laws, which did not exist at the time either. So that's recapping the game. if you have any questions about that, let me know.